make an executive decision to start and do the best we can. So apologies, I thought we were all set up. I'd like to call in. Do we have a quorum? Here, Patrick, we have Ken on the phone and Patrick, Jamie.
Just missing out here.
Yeah, so a quorum is declared, if that's okay with everybody. Secretary's report, Jamie, anything? We have the minutes. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes? I don't. So there'll be a motion to approve. Roger and second Clark, and consider those approved. Can we come back to the treasurer's report a little bit later? I am pleased and embarrassed at the same time to introduce our guest speaker, Commissioner Alpert. As we know, is our District 2 Commissioner, and I've gotten to know, may I call you Liz just for the moment, Commissioner Alpert, decently well over the last couple of years. I think we've had a cordial and very constructive relationship, and I'm so happy that she's our guest speaker today. There's a lot of timely topics for District 2 in our city. So without further ado, Commissioner, could you say a few words? And I think we agreed that you'd make some introductory remarks and maybe take a few questions.
All right.
Sit in front of this.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
All right. So,
Sure. Yeah.
okay. Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
Technology.
Okay.
It's great when it's working, and is it off or is it on there still? Oh yeah, you're not.
Still on.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Not. Yeah, I was like, you're not, David.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, shut off. Well, I mean, it's not showing anything. Okay, I have Zoom on my. Okay. Well, I just wanted to make a couple of remarks about myself for those of
We can't hear, Liz.
who don't know me. Okay.
I can't hear. So
You
just
can't hear? Okay. And I think I just turned it off. Okay. Can you hear me now, Ken?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Right. Yeah, we have it so you can't see me. So if you can't see,
Maybe a good thing, Liz.
purposely, Ken, we didn't mean to do that purposely, but as long as you can hear me. I'm not showing any slides or anything like that. And since he can't see me, do you don't mind if I sit? And okay, since we don't need to be standing up. But for those of you who don't know me or my background, I'll just take a couple of minutes. I've been on the city commission now 6 years. I just got reelected. It's kind of a fluke why it's 6 years instead of 4 for the first term, but be that as it may, before I got on the city commission, I had a background of serving on not only city boards in Sarasota. When I first moved here in 2002, I got appointed to the Human Relations Board in 2003 and served on that board until I was term limited out, and then I served on the Civil Service Personnel Board until I was elected to the commission in 2015. Prior to that, I was living in Tampa, and I served on a City of Tampa Architectural Review Commission. And I served on that board for 6 years. And what we did was we were like a historic preservation board in that we oversaw 2 of the historic districts in Tampa, and I was the citizen member. I didn't know about historic preservation and I didn't know about architecture. So during my term, I went to every National Trust for Historic Preservation convention that I could go to, and serving with a lot of good architects and historic preservationists, I learned a lot about not only historic preservation, but smart growth and new urbanism principles. So even in the mid 90s, they were teaching that sort of thing, promoting that sort of thing. So I've had a passion for how you build a city and how you make it all work together for a long time. So when I came to Sarasota in 2002, they had just adopted the downtown master plan through the firm of a urban planning guru, Andres Duani, who I had heard about during my time in learning about smart growth. So I was very happy to hear that the city of Sarasota was progressive enough to adopt this downtown master plan based on those kinds of principles. So since being on the commission, so since that time, actually, what you're seeing in the downtown is a result of that original master plan of how to grow that. So what happened, though, was in the recession of 2007, 2008, everything stopped. And then once we came out of the recession, that's why all of these new structures are being built now. It was all kind of on the drawing board before, but nothing was happening. And that's what you're seeing in our downtown now. It's a really exciting time in the city. We've got, as you know, a lot going on that I made a list of potential things that you might want to know about. And it's like a fairly long list of 15, 16 items. And I didn't even include the Gulfstream roundabout and the roundabouts at 10th and 14th and everything else that's going on, certainly Boulevard of the Arts and the 10th Street streetscape, the Rosemary District Park, all sorts of things that we're seeing happening going on, downtown. The Bay Project, which we're all excited about. And I don't know, I know some of you saw my guest column in the Herald Tribune about keeping the orchestra in the city and really being open to the location in Payne Park, which I think would be perfect for not only the orchestra, for the city, for Payne Park, for all the residents downtown, the residents in the surrounding neighborhood, and the convenience for people, the enhancement to the park that would create. So I'm really hoping that we can make that happen, because I think if we lose the orchestra in the city, they're negotiating with 10 or 12 other music venues, and they will be taking in to occupy their music center along with the orchestra. If they leave, they take all of those. And I think then we lose our designation, really, our arts and cultural identification in the city. So I'm really hoping to get as much support as possible, especially from the people in the surrounding area and the Downtown Condo Association. And if you don't know, that's a 40-acre park, and the orchestra wants to use 7 acres of it. They have 4 acres now on the bay, and those 4 acres they'll vacate that. They've got a building there taking up, and that will become park in the Bay Project. And so in exchange, they would go into Payne Park, leaving 33 acres, leaving all of the amenities that they have now. We need to relocate the tennis courts, may need to relocate a pond, but that's it. Everything else remains the same. We relocate the tennis courts to Payne Park, redig the pond, move the trees, walk the ducks over to the new pond, and I think they will be perfectly happy. I don't think they care where the pond is located, and we still have the playground, the walking trail, the auditorium, the skate park, the cafe, everything that's there now. Everybody will still have the same thing, and the opportunity to have a music center there. We have, I think it's a great, venue for our city. I think we need to keep it in the city, and that's the only location that's viable for them. And at nights and weekends, that area of the city is almost dead. The courthouse is closed. All of the attorney's offices surrounding the courthouse are closed. So if there's any place in the city where it wouldn't create a traffic problem, that's it. So with that, what I thought I would do is let you ask me questions about what interests you, what you'd like to know about.
One question I have is, why 7 acres? I saw this blog, David showed me today, all these major concert halls have 1.2 acres, 2 acres, Carnegie Hall, places like that. And is 7 acres baked into the code?
Well, not totally, but what they, and I don't know where they are with the planning, because the commission tasked Mayor Brody and Marlin with doing the negotiations. So I'm not negotiating with them. But I know they're going to be making a decision soon. Part of the 7 acres is in some surface parking. The idea is to use the county parking garage for most of the parking, because that's also vacant nights and weekends. So it eliminates the need for building a parking garage, which if they relocated on the bay, we would need even that much more parking. There'd be no park left there. So I'm hoping maybe they could consider a little less of the surface parking just for, or maybe if they locate it under the building. I don't know, that's the only thing. But they said they have done, they've been planning this for a long time. Didn't just pop up. They did over 2 years. They spent just looking for locations in the city. They've decided on what's going to work, what kind of facility they need. So, if we could make the surface parking a little smaller, plus the city owns 2 acres along 301, right adjacent to Payne Park. So, another option would be to possibly then add that to the mix, add that to the park, which would then only be, a net loss of 5 acres, but really only a net loss of 1 acre. If you take the 4 acres they have and exchange it. And they have people say, well, why should we give them free land? They have free land now. They have a lease for $1 a year that I think goes through, and I don't, don't quote me because I don't remember exactly, but it might be 2099. I mean, it's a long-term lease that they could stay right where they are and and that would mess up that whole project.
A question for you. If we go back to our findings, so what do you think is the most effective way to do that and the most impactful?
It would be let the orchestra and the city commissioners know that they support this, because that's what they need to hear, is that the community wants this to happen.
Letters.
Emails. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Joe McKenna needs an email.
Yeah, and Joe McKenna.
I have a question.
Yes, Ken.
Can you, we know where you stand. But can
Yes.
you clarify and remind us where the commission is in terms of the votes it's taken up to now and what the staff is doing with respect to keeping the orchestra downtown?
Okay, this is what I know, Ken. The city commission voted to explore areas in and around Payne Park. I do not know what their positions are, obviously, because of the sunshine law. So I don't know where they stand now, but Mayor Brody and Mr. Brown are supposedly, or they're supposed to be negotiating with the orchestra. They also offered the back corner where the skate park is, but I think from what I saw from an email that I received, that would also, the people who are against this would also oppose it in that location as well. So
Well,
I
you
don't
may have
know where
seen-
they are with
You
it.
may have seen the email today that I sent you with a copy of an essay that
I
the
did.
Preserve Payne Park people wrote, and
Yeah.
they were a little more relaxed about their position about the park.
They are a little more relaxed, and I plan to talk to Kelly Franklin again about it, to try to, I think she's a little more relaxed about it as one of the leaders of the, Preserve Payne Park, that they recognize. I think they would just, if we could make the footprint a little smaller.
Well, I met with Kelly yesterday with several other people, including Roger.
Okay.
And can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And she was very willing to modify some of her really tough positions.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I was going to call her tonight, and chat with her as well. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, I have a question also. What is the status of the Payne Park deed restrictions and the legal aspect of this, of their ability to take some acreage and put the symphony there?
Okay, according to the legal memo that our city attorney wrote, that what the deed restriction says is park, playground, and kindred uses. And if you look at an interpretation of kindred uses, it would include things like entertainment, which would include a music hall. Many parks have music centers. The waterfront park up in Tampa has a children's museum in it. So this is not an atypical kind of idea to have something like this in a park. So I think legally, I think we could establish that this meets with the deed restrictions. And even if it doesn't, there's also a statute that arguably says that after 30 years, as long as we're using it for municipal purposes, and I don't quote me on this because I don't have the memo in front of me exactly what it is, but he also felt that we didn't have to really honor that anymore, that there's a legal argument for saying that that deed restriction has gone away.
Thank you.
Can we move to, I have a question, but please, anybody else, separate from the orchestra?
From the orchestra,
Yeah,
yes. I didn't mean to get into the whole orchestra.
No, that's important, but are there any other questions? I have one. You mentioned.
Can I just mention one? Anybody who has any other questions, feel free to call or email me and I'll talk with you directly. Okay.
You mentioned Boulevard Arts.
Yes.
And in the budget,
one concern is we've got two members, our transportation.
David, it's difficult to hear you.
Okay. One of the, is that better, Ken?
Yeah.
Okay. one of the things you mentioned was Boulevard of the Arts and Tent. The one concern we have, a transportation department that is employee-less now, as I understand, with Colleen McHugh and Megan Louis having left the company, the city. So one of the things we have an interest in, there was money in the budget to begin the design process this year. And I believe in the FY22 budget as it currently stands, there is some money to begin construction. I think what our observation is, we'd sure like to see, the planning begin without starts and stops as much as possible. So we'd certainly ask for your support. We know the budget is on the agenda for next Tuesday or Wednesday for finalize, and to ensure that CIP money and the prioritization, shall we say, of those stays at an appropriate level. They were identified as priority projects in the top 10 list. So,
well, the update that I have on the Boulevard of the Arts and 10th Street is the staff has issued an order to the consultant to come up with a concept plan. So the planning is starting. So that still is in the budget to do that.
great. We just like, to continue that, to fund it at once the design is done. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Patrick.
Liz, as you mentioned, all these projects going on around us, well, one of the things those projects create, especially the construction projects, is impacts on traffic and mobility. And I know our residents have felt it, especially down on South Palm, where that construction was going on there, on Gulfstream, and now continuing through the Quay property. There's been a series of problems, and much of which was predicted and questioned back at planning board and to the city commission, that the management of both the existing operating businesses, which Quay, as well as the constructions, would have people parking in right spaces. For the last month, I have been informing the parking department, and then through the click to fix process, that there's a continued everyday trucks parked along the west side of Quay Commons, which is a no parking site. So it is causing one-way traffic through there. And with all the other traffic, that is one of the network traffic things that people use, which is what we need to keep open. So closing Quay Commons and closing that link to Fruitville roundabout is not an option there. But it's not being kept open. I just want to bring that to your attention that
I'll make a note of that because I hadn't heard that.
well, I haven't raised it there, but I think just in terms of it, what is the process is we were talking about is with all this benefits coming in and the income coming in, is the departments that are charged with enforcing, either the parking department or in the case of development services. So who enforces where the construction crews are parking, et cetera. And so when I've spoken to staff, they say that it's a staffing issue. They don't have people to do that. So I'm not trying to put the blame on the enforcement side. I'm simply raising the issue that it's, as we have seen occur over and over again in different construction areas. And if you like, I'll forward you an email later.
Yeah, that would be good.
So just another issue. I don't know if other areas of the city are being impacted right now. Certainly the Gulfstream roundabout construction has been impacted, but I think people generally getting around and figuring out how to avoid that.
Right.
So,
Try to contact the traffic if there's some police problem. Contact the sergeant or Gaston, call it there, and you can actually express to them your problem, and they can go out and look at the issue to see if it violates.
Can I turn this off?
Their system was fast. But yeah, try to reach out to them. Maybe they might be able to provide the answer for you as well.
Okay, can
Now
you
we
hear it?
can't hear anything.
Can't hear anything?
So is there any sound here?
Yep, you just turned it
You
up.
just turned it up.
A little louder.
I can hear you fine.
Testing,
I can hear that.
testing.
I can hear that.
I can.
Hi.
Okay, we'll all just talk loud. Other questions?
Do you have a status on Lux on 10th, the project between 10th and 11th in Coconut and Florida Avenue? The proposed 160 unit apartment
I don't.
has, I think it came before the commission and you approved certain aspects of it. But I think there's still some other work that had to be done.
I don't. So send me an email
I
and I'll
will.
get
Absolutely.
that to you. Okay.
Commissioner, one other question that has come up recently is we understand the city's in the midst of updating its strategic plan. And I believe you and I spoke individually about this. And I think I've shared with you some of the population numbers down, with the Dsca area, 12,000 people going to 15,000. I think at our last Dsca board meeting, there was some disappointment expressed by some of our board members that the consultant doing that project wasn't reaching out for some engagement directly with, for example, Dsca. And we were to, funnel our input through Ccna. And the concern, I think, is we feel as valuable as Ccna is and how much we appreciate Blue Costa, is that a lot of Ccna neighborhoods are apples and oranges with our dynamic of multifamily homes, businesses in growth. Over 60% of the growth of the entire city has happened in 1.7 square miles, and that's going to go on. So I'm hopeful that as that strategic plan comes before, works its way to the commission, that could be some way for some degree of independent input into that, even if it's a half an hour, 45-minute meeting with this person. But I think the people in this room, we could hopefully add some value. We certainly have enough spreadsheets, as you know, right?
Right. It was quite the king of spreadsheets and charts, but yeah, I did discuss it with Marlon, and his concern was that if we give a special, and I agree that it's we're talking about a huge number of people relative to all of the residential. But he said, Newtown's going to say, well, we have different needs than the other residential neighborhoods, and we're going to get into this whole issue of who has the most special needs. So I think the best way to do it is make sure that what's emphasized is what is different about the Downtown Sarasota Condo Association and why, and get that point across. And I think we can weight that input based on the number of people who live in that area as compared to the other areas.
Okay. Well, we're going to be discussing that later in our agenda, but we sure appreciate at least that point of view as it expressed. Any other board members or any of our folks watching on Zoom now that you're back with us? Okay. All right. And Commissioner, you mentioned, I mentioned to members of the commission that there's this new book out that was drawn to my attention called Restorative Cities. And I think it's an interesting concept. I'd like to kind of gift to you a copy of the book, as it may provide some food for thought as you and the commission look at the strategic plan for the city.
Well, like I said, it's like something that I sort of am passionate about, so I'll be interested to read, what it says, and for health and well-being, for mental health and well-being, and so.
We think it's a kind of a tight.
walkable
Yep,
city.
okay with that, okay.
Yes.
You mentioned walkable. One of the things that's come out, we keep hearing the city talking about having a vibrant downtown. I think one of the things that the residents would say, it also has to be livable. And so if you have it as vibrant and livable, then you have a viable downtown. And I think from a smart growth standpoint, linking the livability with the vibrancy would be a way to try and get the entire commission on board with growth is good if it's done sustainably and livably.
Right, that's gonna be probably our biggest challenge, is that balance of, you know, vibrancy and livability. So it is a downtown, so, you know, we've gotta, you know, we certainly have to balance that. You can't expect to not have noise if you're in a downtown and not have events and not have things going on, because that's what we've been doing for years. And, you know, and that's, and now having the growth downtown is what also then brings all the different businesses and, you know, so it kind of feeds on itself, but it is going to create then, as you create more amenities and things to do, it's going to create more activity and then, you know, generate more noise by, you know, just, I know I live 2 blocks off Main Street. So, in a condo, so I legitimately belong to this group. But I've noticed since 2002, when I moved into my condo, the additional people on the streets all the time walking. I haven't noticed a big increase in traffic, but a lot more people downtown, more things to do, the amenities that have been created. You know, and we've got other things that we're looking at that are coming up. We're looking at a bike share and motorized scooter share. We're going to be interviewing 3 finalists for that next week. There's a move to have a first Friday every Friday night and close off some streets for that. The Ringling Bike Trail that we're going to be putting in so that people can go from the Legacy Trail through downtown and out to the beaches if they want, or, you know, vice versa. You can go from downtown to the Legacy Trail or out to the beach. So I think that's going to be a really positive thing that we have going on. We're seriously looking at the water taxi now. We've identified 3 places where they could dock. And in line with talking about that, we're talking about, you know, some kind of a circulator that, or to start with at least, it would go from the parking garage to the water taxi dock. The water taxi would take you over to Ken Thompson Park, because that seems to be the only place that they can dock there. And then there'd be another circulator that would then take you to St. Armand's or the beaches. Where the RFP is out for the trolley. They opened the bids for that on September 7th, and then city staff and the FDOT will decide on who wins that bid to do the trolley from downtown Main Street across the bridge to St. Armand's and Toledo Beach. So I think, you know, we're hoping that will alleviate some of the traffic, because I'm told there are about 2,000 people who live on the mainland but work on the barrier islands. So if even some of those people were able to take the trolley back and forth instead of driving, I think that would help some of that traffic problems. What else have we got here?
I got a question for you. As long as we're talking about transportation, I've seen a lot of different ideas and proposals and thoughts regarding the SCAT station. The SCAT, the bus
yes.
station. where do you see that, you personally see that as a priority, or a, even an option to have that be relooked at, or where's that, is that
To move
coming
the
out?
scat
Yes.
station downtown, I think that it would be good to move it. It's outgrown that location. The buses have a hard time getting in and out because, you know, again, the growth downtown. So now where it should be moved, I don't know yet, but it needs, you know, obviously it needs to be convenient for people. And again, if we move it, do we have some kind of a you know, circulator? I know SCAT is looking at and has implemented this more bus on demand kind of service.
I see that periodically downtown, and I think, gosh, if I were someone who worked somewhere downtown and I had a choice of being delivered to a door or a close point closer to where I work, it would be a wonderful alternative, and maybe get more employees. I'm not sure, but so I was just wondering where you were on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate it. We want to be
Yes.
respectful of your
Oh, yes,
time.
I gotta do some, I gotta
And
get somewhere
we
before
really
5
know
o'clock.
as you are, and we always value your support. If we earn it, then we sure try and earn it with those spreadsheets.
David never gives up, he just relentless. But please feel free, email me, you know, call me, set up an appointment, you know, call Alexia at City Hall and she'll schedule an appointment with me if you have any concerns or comments or questions that you have. I appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Sorry for the technical. Shall we now, we skipped over, can we go back, Clark, to you with the treasurer's report if you have something, always brief as a matter of course,
sure.
I hope.
Well, we've got $7,700, 77790 and 18 cents in the Sable Palm checking account. Almost 70.
Okay.
You gonna make any statement about the bank?
Do you want to?
Well, I mean, just letting people know that the bank has been bought or something or merged.
You know more about that than I do. I saw your note. Do we have a banker? Pacific?
Do you know where it's? Yeah, right. Who purchased Sable?
Ccna, something. Sorry,
But our funds are secure.
Thank you.
Just in case somebody hears that.
Yeah. Right. So there may be a banking matter for discussion as time goes on. Okay. Then moving along, I understand we have a new silver associate member, and that would be Evergreen Lifestyle Management. Is somebody from Evergreen?
She had another event, she couldn't make it.
Okay. We welcome them, and could you say what 30 seconds of what you know about them?
So I believe they do luxury master plan associations, something that has that lifestyle component. And then they also do luxury high rises. So if there's some kind of activity center or something like that, they specialize in that.
Great. We're pleased to have them join us, and I guess as a formality, do we have a
I
motion?
move to approve Evergreen Lifestyles Management as a silver associate member.
Second.
All in favor? Everybody?
Aye.
Okay, well, welcome Evergreen Lifestyles Management. The next update, we have an update on the marketing admin services. And Patrick, Jamie, and I have been giving a lot of thought to this, and we wanted to let you know that I hope there's real support. We're about to be making a transition to a new marketing admin firm who, for a number of reasons, I think Patrick on the technical side, we're thinking about some just fit-wise. This new firm has a more significant amount of wild apricot experience and we've discussed and really wanting to move ahead in the next couple of weeks on that. Patrick, could you elaborate, embroider on that? As
For those who had trouble logging into today's meeting, the logins were set up by our former marketing admin service provider. So we are hiring someone new who has better skills at the Wild Apricot membership management, event management, all of those things that we need to communicate to our members, to allow our members to more easily access our data. So we worked with best we could and found we really needed to focus more on that than a lot of the SEO optimization and outbound social media, which is important for outreach. But we want to make sure we've got the basics of structure running well. And we also have a plan in the future for merging or integrating our two different websites and our platforms. And there's a skill set around that that we wanted to incorporate. So as what we've set up is right now we've been on a fixed price per month. The current service, the new service, we'll do it on a per hour basis for the first few months. And then by the first of the year, hopefully we'll get a sense for what that will be going forward.
we're confident that it's a worthwhile change and a timely change. So that'll be occurring middle of the month and moving on from there. So look forward to that support. The next item on the old business is the orchestra, and Liz spoke of that. I can tell you that Roger and I have been kind of involved kind of outside of our Dsca role to some extent as a friends of the orchestra, and we have participated as recently as yesterday in meetings with Kelly Franklin and are trying to keep those lines of communication and trying to find a win-win. And it's just too complicated to go into the details now, but I think there is a degree of flexibility, or at least talking with the Preserve Payne Park folks. But to some degree, the ball is in Mr. McKenna's court, and between he, Marlon, and the mayor. So, you know, we're kind of guessing that it's his move, so to speak, it seems to us. So behind the scenes, people are trying very hard to keep that as an option alive, and I think there is some potential flexibility at Payne Park, and we're working for a compromise.
Is there a site plan anywhere showing?
No. Okay. The orchestra showed their rendering a couple years ago,
Right.
but there was never a site plan, never really got past that. There are 3 specific general scenarios that have been developed to kind of toss out there back to the orchestra, but they really haven't reacted at this point, so it's a guessing. That's all I've got on the orchestra. Roger, do you have any?
Well, if you want to communicate, I suggest you attempt to communicate with the orchestra management. The city certainly wants them to say it's the orchestra management's decision about whether it stays or not.
Okay, not much else to say about that. I think it's going to be all over the newspaper in the coming days, potential, but there's nothing really to put your teeth in on this one. The next item, between Kathy, me, and I don't know who else, but a city update. Kathy, oh, sorry, you changed chairs.
I did.
Might you like to, on the noise, sound related matter, you and I talked about it yesterday.
Right.
Is there anything as an overview that might be helpful to know?
There is going to be a small group of citizens that are going to meet with Marlon Brown and Fournier. Actually, there's another group that's meeting with Fournier independently to talk about the ordinances that are coming up and the changes in the ordinances, and So that's one component of it. I think there's a group that's meeting because of that. There is another group, myself being included, that's meeting with a woman, Chantel. I'm going to be meeting with her tomorrow night. And Patrick, you're welcome to join in with Cheryl, who's a part of this Concerned Citizens group. And we're going to come up with a framework or a way that we can manage a coming together of a larger group of citizens and business owners, as well as entertainment venue type owners. So they all have their concerns. I think we've come to realize, Patrick and I and the head of this group, that they have a lot of common concerns that if we could join together to work on. But I think that there is also some frustration on both parts that you know is not being realized or heard. And so this is going to be a good thing. And I think ahead of the commission meeting with the sound ordinance, I think it's going to be helpful that we begin this discussion. Marlon Brown will then be brought into that group when we meet. So he'll be kept in contact with.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, it's a positive movements and people are.
It is. It's like all of a sudden, you know, we've got a way for people to just kind of come together and make a statement. And I think it's a good thing.
Okay. From city updates, is there anything else that anybody?
The other thing that's coming before the commission that's hopefully going to be this coming up next week is the ordinances on the city parks rules, regulations, closing times, and also the giving authority to the city manager and the parks director regarding some of the issues that have been going on in the park. So once that's passed, everything is going, the new rules and hours will be posted. So that'll be coming down the pike.
Good. Anything else city update wise? Okay.
One other thing I want to add is I'm still in contact with the city commission regarding the sit and lie ordinance that's come before the commission regarding downtown vacancy, whatever have you. But they're all on board. They all want to move it. It's just a question of getting the language worked out. And so it's right there right now.
Okay. Okay, moving along to committee status reports. Jamie, Associates Events, and update on the serious side of building maintenance. I saw those who saw the Herald Tribune Sunday, there was about a 4-page article. Whoopsie daisy.
We're on a slow link here, so I'm just putting up the flyer.
I was going to say, I printed one out. It's not color. I mean, there's so few of us. I would say with our technical difficulties, I say we just, you got it. Yeah, so we're pulling along. I think this is a very timely event and we're excited about it. We did kind of rename it again or kind of change the verbiage on the flyer to condominiums in crisis. How healthy is your building? We thought that was a little more headline grabbing. So anyway, the contract has been signed. Like I said, we're moving right along. Kristen had prepared the flyer. We've got speakers lined up. So I think we just need approval on the actual flyer.
And Kristen, I mean, extra thanks go out to you. The work you put into the articulation thing. Man, I'll shove it. We extra glass of wine.
Seriously.
Seriously.
We'll be buying that for you.
You know, I think she's a novice and is a little just confused, but I will get through it.
And Patrick, you and I had talked about now that we're 2.5 months post Surfside, is to ensure that we don't automatically assume, you know, that people is going to be at the top of their list. Somehow find some way to continue to engage with them and drive them to our event and keep it reminding and encouraging. So we get a
make sure we get
appropriate turnout.
Yeah.
And I think I'm in touch with the longboats and folks on longboats. I'm hopeful that we get some participation from our friends on longboat who might add some value. And I have like 80 condos or 90 condos there or something.
And I think the twist on the title too kind of includes not just building maintenance out of the Surfside thing, but also, I mean, our insurance rate hikes, you know, and also we were talking earlier about the labor shortage. So a lot of our contractors are not able to fulfill their duties on projects, materials. Bob and I were talking about that. Costs are going up on that. So there's a lot of things attacking our condominiums as a whole, as well as our individual units. So I think if we can put all that into one discussion, then maybe a lot more interest will be.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys
for the moment.
Do we need approval?
Yeah, I would just like to highlight also that with the changeover of marketing admin, the volunteers will need to be extra focused on the timing. So we get out the promotional stuff ahead of time, including the associate members e-blast that's due out in 3 weeks with an appropriate theme tied to the event and quotes. And that was what was to be discussed. It was on the list of things for joint marketing discussions at some point here. So it was part of the list of items that we were given the answers back from our former member, marketing admin, where things were set up. I think there's links to things. So suggesting we need to follow through on that so we can do the communication,
particularly during this transition. Okay.
But excellent work on the flyer, and let's. I guess we have to finish filling out the panelists before we start sending it out. But we'll work on getting it.
I'm just waiting on two. Everybody else is confirmed.
Great. Well, thank you both. Thank you both. Moving ahead to the Green Space Committee, and Patrick, man, you did a great document here several hours ago and some very interesting progress. So please fill us in.
Yeah, I was going to just quickly share the screen back here. 1 second. So we had a Green Space Committee meeting on August 24th, and in that meeting we covered a number of topics. We had some really good guest speakers. First of all, we had Mark Miller, who gave us an update on what was happening with the proposed zoning text amendment to implement the over 2 years work of the Tree Advisory Committee. And those recommendations were then put into ordinance. And then that ordinance was brought before the City Commission, and they needed some clarification, let's put it that way. So I think they asked staff to find a way to present it in a way that was more clarified. Well, it seemed to be that there were some on the commission who wanted to tank the whole thing. And so we discussed this at our meeting here and had some feedback from Mark Miller on what he saw some of the issues. Certainly from a staff standpoint, there may be some timing of staff resources issues, but that didn't seem to be as big an issue. It seems to be more whether or not there's a strong public support to push it forward, because there's some levels of commission resistance in the making changes. So what we've proposed is that for everyone to please take a look at this. This has been followed. Our Green Space Committee was following the work of the Tree Advisory Committee for over 2 years. One of the major changes that's in there is going from a table of tree mitigation. So if you take out 30 inches big oak tree, you had to before replace it with 3 7-inch trees, and the difference would be made up when it grows over time in someone's next generation. So the proposal was changed to make it inch for inch, that you either planted trees to make up or you paid into the fund based upon a set criteria of size of tree and how much or cost per linear, cost per caliper inch sort of thing, which really addresses the issue of when a tree is cut down, it's removing the benefits that accrue to all the public in terms of the air filtration, carbon sequestration, et cetera. And so there should be a compensation for that. And so that's what they studied this and they had a lot of input and came up with this. And then they came back and gave a 50% credit if you pick trees from this preferred list. Well, the preferred list is mostly what's in the list of recommended trees anyway, live oaks, et cetera. So they're getting some credit if they do the right things anyway. So all in all, as the committee had looked at this and tracked it, we felt on balance, this was a positive change and therefore recommend that this go forward. And I would propose that I'd like to get discussion here on that, but that the Dsca do make a statement that we support moving forward with adoption of the proposed ordinances for that. That's the first one. I'd just like to get feedback or discussion here if we need to on this.
One thing I can say, a number of people have been coming forward to speak in favor of this. I joined about 12 other people in Lou Costa to meet with Commissioner Batty 3 hours ago. So they're getting a lot of, commissioners are getting a lot of feedback from Lido, Bird Key, Laurel Park, wherever, coming together that this is a thoughtful direction to proceed. And I would encourage us as a board to authorize, if that's the right word, at public comment period for this at the minimum, that Patrick or I or somebody else be get the okay to speak in support of this.
Any other comments? Any other members here? You can see you were on our call, right? Any other comments or feedback from the
I think
meeting?
the only thing that someone brought up is wanting to increase the shade, to have more, covered walkways in time, and have plants that would provide more shade. That was a strong point that was made.
Right, and that goes to the other items we did discuss under the Gulfstream Roundabout, where we had the Florida DOT's landscape architect for our district. And we were very pleasantly surprised that when we raised the issues of why they were putting palm trees along the sidewalks and canopy trees out in the median, why we shouldn't be reversed, and he says, oh, well, make that suggestion and we'll take it under consideration. Hopefully they'll make, but they can understand that, yes, there was a need for shade on the sidewalks and therefore make that suggestion. So I do have an action item to submit an email back to the landscape architect with some cited points of change on both Gulfstream and on the Tamiami side, north of the intersection.
I can say that in my couple of years of working in earnest on city related things, I've never seen as much discussion about trees and the desirability of canopy trees across the board, whether it be FDOT or in this meeting or that meeting. So I think the memo is finally maybe being heard across commissioners. And I think we don't want to take our foot off the gas here and make assumptions, because strange things can happen potentially with this commission. So with all due respect to the commission, but I think there's a real opportunity here with this and the EDCM, which is kind of a needs thing, all coming together in a good way. So Patrick, you've done a fantastic job.
And we got a lot of support for that. Yeah. Well, that's the case. Then I'll make a motion to the board here that the DSC board supports the city's tree advisory committee recommendations for zoning text amendment ordinance on tree protection, and make supportive statements in support of that, or following that.
Second on that?
would second that.
Okay, second, any further discussion, comments?
Can you repeat that one more
The board
time? Supports the city street advisory commission
is
recommendation
recommendations
for zoning
for
text
the
amendments.
the tree protection zoning text amendment ordinance being moved forward.
And this won't be voted on next week, but the commission is to give staff direction. So the intent is to give that direction to, give further thought and bring it back. All right. Time for a vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ken, did we catch you?
Yeah, I got my hand up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all for that.
Homeless committee. Peter, are you on the call today?
Actually, I don't think I saw.
He's here.
Okay.
Not on there.
I understand that the Salvation Army, for what it's worth, is still in a pause on some of their services. But I don't know much on that, and I can't explain in detail what exactly the pause is, but they're not fully operational as they would be.
There's just a lot more people on the sidewalks around Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Probably going to be more yet with the evictions.
And on the Health and Safety Committee, I guess I've been giving the COVID situation. I believe I shared with the entire board the charts from a week ago. They come out on Wednesdays. They were not available to date today, but I'm anticipating them later today, and I'll get them updated by the morning. But they're god awful. So I don't know if things will begin to settle down, but
Today, the governor had a press conference and he said statewide COVID hospitalizations are down 20%. And if you look at sort of Memorial every day, which I do, they are coming down, but it's very slow and it's from a very high number. So it's not, it's serious.
okay. So look forward.
David, do you have any comment about the lawsuit that a state representative filed against DeSantis about reporting of COVID infections?
I'm vaguely aware of that. Could you update us, Ken, if you know something more than?
Well, I just know that Carlos Guillermo Smith from Orlando filed suit against the state because they had reduced the daily reporting to weekly reporting and simplified the reporting, and he's trying to get them to be more precise and more frequent. But that suit was just filed within the last couple of days, so I don't know where it'll go.
Okay, well, let me see what I can find out about that. Moving on then to Roger on transportation. You've been working on the Gulfstream roundabout?
Absolutely. In fact, as I look out my window at the intersection of Sunset and Gulfstream, I can give you an hourly report. And I have to say, the Monday when the switch came, I hid the entire day. But I have to say it is significantly improved and is perhaps more efficient now than when you had the stoplight at Gulfstream. You reduced one complete set of stoplights. So I can get downtown from Sunset in about 5 minutes once I get through the Sunset traffic light, but it's the only one. I go straight downtown. It's pretty cool. They are working on additional lighting and improvements, and perhaps I might even be able to get into my own street before this is finished, but so far not yet. So I'm optimistic.
And by the way, anecdotally, somebody told me that they are sensing a little bit less noise.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the motorcycles starting and stopping as much. No, I just passed that along there. If you,
Well,
if anybody.
I talked to my buddy John, who was on this board, and you're not accelerating from the Gulfstream roundabout or stoplight anymore. You're not going, it's slow and constant speed. So yeah, it has reduced the noise. And of course, Alan, who's not on, when they completed the roundabout here, where he lives, was significantly quieter. So it's another advantage of the roundabout that we'll add to our group.
Okay, is that?
That's,
About-
that's all I got to say.
Could I ask a question quickly?
Sure.
Roger, are they doing anything about improving the ability of the people from the Weston and the View from crossing over into Main Street? Right now, don't they have to almost walk all the way up to 10th Street to get a crosswalk?
They've got to walk to Fruitville to get a crosswalk or to Sunset. And they won't be able to walk in front of the Weston for the foreseeable future because that sidewalk is being closed from Sunset over to Ridge Drive on the west side for construction. Just saw that today.
Didn't they take the Hawk Light down at Ritz Drive?
What?
Didn't they take the Hawk Light down at Ritz Drive?
Yeah, the Hawk Light at Ridge Drive is gone. You can't walk across it. Again, where I live, on Sunset, if I walk downtown, I have to walk across Sunset, follow the bay to Main Street. Or I walk the Merck Trails to 41 and then down to Fruitville. Those are the only two pedestrian crossings.
When season comes, this is going to be a problem. I think when the Weston gets busier and the View gets busier.
Well, the Western people have the toughest walk of anybody in this process, no question.
Are they just walking across?
Well, yeah, and boy, is it terrifying. I drove through there the other evening and there were 3 people in the middle of the damn highway in the dark. And I scared the hell out of them by blowing my horn. But, you know.
I guess I shouldn't laugh.
No, you shouldn't laugh, it's dangerous. Pedestrians tend not to pay any attention to that sort of thing. I don't think that helps.
Right, okay.
Okay, Alan isn't with us tonight, so I guess there's no EV charge. Anybody else have anything on that? Nope. Zoning committee, Drew, are you with us?
I didn't see him on this.
Okay, anybody else have anything about zoning other than zoning section? Okay. The next item is an update on the CCNA. Oh, sorry about that, Bob.
That's fine. It's going to be very brief because I sent you all a construction update today. For everyone else, you may notice some odors over there because they started to dredge the bayou. And having some experience when they dredged the bayou in 10th Street, and our air handlers on the roof picked it up when the wind's blowing right. It could be a pretty pungent smell. So, but you have all the other information.
Okay, then I guess is the CCNA. Ted, what have you got for us? I've got some information along the way, but what have you got for us?
The CCNA did not meet in August again, and they have their next meeting scheduled on the 11th of September. And I believe it's at the Robert L. Taylor Center. So that really, I don't have anything new. I know that Lou has been working on these ideas that the commission wants to have some ideas on improving the city and so forth and so on, but I really don't have anything new from my standpoint, David.
I may have something. I think I circulated to you all. Lou issued an email a couple days ago with outlining the process for the strategic initiatives, and I shared that with the board. I don't know if you had a chance to glance at that, but to summarize, a consultant has been hired, and as Lou tells me, and as he writes here, input on the strategic plan by Marlin has been requested from 9 members of city staff and Ccna, right? And Ccna is provided, and we discussed this last session, they provided 3 initiatives. 2, one was the meaningful neighborhood input on land development process. And then their second initiative was the missing middle affordable workforce housing. And then the third was Bobby Jones, both the golf course component of that and the park, shall we say, call it. So that is what they have proceeded to do. I know there was some disappointment. I said a little about that with Liz, about expressed at our last board meeting about the lack of outreach to us for input. Following our last board meeting, I had another go at Marlin and suggesting that this was a real missed opportunity to not in some way reach out to Dsca, and essentially he said, look, I've just as Liz said, my concern is if I give you folks a meeting or whatever, others are going to, be disappointed also. So for the moment, our input, and Lou knows of our concerns. Lou Costa agrees that, we are a different kettle of fish to some extent to some of the other neighborhoods, and he understands that. So my question, looking for direction, and I did circulate in your pack, there are, if we want to have more meaningful input into the strategic plan, I see Patrick and I talked about the potential of maybe 2 or 3 different options. One is last November, there was, of which I wasn't a part of this group, there was a discussion of priorities, and then each committee outlined their priorities and action items. Now that document is going on a year old. So one scenario here would be to ask those committees to dust off this work, see what part of it is still applicable and appropriate and what needs updating. And then the committees bring their recommendations back to the full board, say at our November meeting, for action and what we do in December as we start the new year. The other option would be to either form another committee, a committee of 4 or 5 folks, kind of a strategic plan. I don't know what it would be called, but a more strategically oriented group separate from our existing committees, and task that group to look at strategies and priorities. And then third would be anoint me one or some, just to do some straw man stuff and throw it out for discussion. My concern about a new committee is we're pretty busy folks, and I know a number of you work hard. I do, and to kind of work on the tactical and day-to-day stuff, and then try and go into the boardroom with the Post-its on the wall and do strategy planning is a pretty big job. So I wanted to open this up for discussion on, again, what I heard from Ken and others last meeting was there was disappointment of our ability to input more forcefully into strategic plan. So my question is, we are where we are, and what are some of your thoughts on this?
Well, looking at your option number one, just taking a look back, I don't have history with it, but what do you think about that? Patrick, you probably know that really well. What do you think about that? Just going back and dusting it off and looking at what needs to be done or tweaked, other than reinventing.
Well, in the past, we have, when we were putting together a full operations plan for each calendar year, part of that was to actually document and put in writing and put out what the updated committee plans were. Because really that's where the different issues get addressed. Whether it's focused on transportation issues or green space issues or homeless issues, those tends to be the dominant ones, or as other ones come up, like sound issues or so forth, then we identify how to focus on that and what role can we play in communicating with the city. Just like you're hearing today, some feedback on some of the tree issues, whatever. Well, there's been a lot of activities, even going way back before me, that did focus on activities, and they would, put down the goals and kind of work towards that. So, yeah, I think if you can, we charge each committee to go back and do that set of time frame. Come back with preliminaries, say by the November meeting from each committee. So in the next 2 months, September, October, committees meet, review what the goals were, actions, plans for the year, which things got checked off, which ones need to continue or be revised. And then if there's something that's like, more than just, hey, we're going to kind of work on this, but this is something should be elevated upwards as a key Dsca strategy and focused on with the city. Part of what was driving this, that brought this about, was when the city reached out to Ccna, their statement was on the order of, what should the city top priority be in the next 2 years? And then what thing that could be accomplished in the next 2 years? And what thing can be accomplished that takes more than 2 years? So I think our committees are typically focused on the next 2 years, but I'm looking at it from that standpoint. Yeah, Ken?
Well, I think we're getting too far down in the process. What we really need to do is to get the city commission as a policy matter to engage with Dsca as well as Ccna. I mean, there are lots of reasons, not specific strategies, but there are lots of reasons why our point of view is different than the point of view of Ccna. Most of the retail is downtown. Most of the bed tax is generated in the city downtown. Most of the entertainment is downtown. Most of the restaurant activity is downtown. And the interaction between the residents downtown and these things create unique stresses. And we need to focus on those differences, why we're different than Ccna, before we get down into the weeds with the strategies. We just need to convince the city commission that we're different.
I think Kim makes a good point. In terms of strategic planning, last year we had a new chair, and we decided to review our processes, and we did it by committee. I think that's the best approach. It can be done quickly, it can be focused. If things are out of date, they can do it. And then the committee brought it to the entire group. And the group agreed, yeah, this is the priority for that, or they didn't like the priority, we argued about it. And so this will be a quick way to update our strategic plan and to review its status. And so I'm promoting that as a concept. I think we need to think also then about how we can communicate to commission that this set of residents have special interest in needs. We might not always agree on how to do it, but to educate the commission would be worthwhile, and that could be perhaps the executive committee's local unless or something like that. But this could be on really quickly.
Well, I'd be willing to put some ideas down on paper about why we're different, if that would get the discussion started.
I think, Ken, you brought up some really good points, and I think it's worthwhile to have that discussion.
Sure, I'm okay with that, Ken, and if I can partner with you on some spreadsheets or what charts or whatever to help, that with your experience, and if you want to have a go at that, let's see what you got.
I'll get to work on it.
Yep, I think Ken is right that there is the broader issue of how we're related, I mean, how we represent ourselves to the city. At the same time, operationally, it's helpful if we are focused on what our goals are doing. And clearly, the environment that we're operating in is changing around us. We all seen the paradigm shift from COVID, et cetera. At the same time, we see the changes in the whole city administration and the kind of things we discussed there. So I clearly think we all need to be really focused on a committee basis, look at those, and then have a really good discussion about, well, from all these things that we could and should be doing, how do we prioritize them in a way that can then do what Ken is talking about, is
Froze up.
Well, it's frozen, gang.
Ccna as the residential group there.
Well, you froze up there for several minutes, so we didn't hear what you said.
We agree with you.
But that's okay.
I was, yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Don't repeat it. That's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Having been the CCNA representative and sitting on the prep board with the Parks and Recreations and so forth, I tell you the truth, I was really disappointed with the recommendations that they came forward with. I thought they were relatively weak in that the Planning Commission is not going to change overnight to let neighborhoods come in and tell them what they can do and can't do. And Bobby Jones is a mess, and the city doesn't know what to do with it. And the CCNA recommendation didn't help that mess any at all either. In short, I'm not sure how much the city commission is going to worry about the initiatives that the CCNA brought forward. I think that more importantly, I think to take Ken's position, to take and elevate the understanding and appreciation of the Dsca organization and making it more important to the city commission is probably more relevant, and will get in the long run some of the initiatives that would come out of your committees to be considered seriously by the city commission. But to worry about what the CCNA has brought up to date, I think has got limited interest to this group, and probably is going to have limited interest to the city commission as well. That's my 2 cents on it.
Okay. Well, good discussion, and Ken, and let's take this and move forward. And Ken, can you have, was your thinking to come back next month?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, good. Anything else on that? No. On the Rosemary District update regarding the park, we are about 90% done with a draft survey for the residents, and our intention is to launch that in the next 3 or 4 days with the goal of getting back up to 1,000 responses, and that helps begin to guide Kimmelhorn on doing 3 treatments, if you will, for the park, and then iteratively go back to the community with charrettes and so forth. The goal is to try and have something done by December to get costed out. The working plan is still to demolish the buildings at the park location probably in November. So things are moving ahead. And as Liz mentioned, there is some planning underway or engineering work on Boulevard of the Arts and 10th in progress as we speak. Also, we just got my concern is to keep that going rather than to come to a stop and put it on the shelf. So I think that's from a Rosemary standpoint, that is for me. Roger.
I'm running short of committee members on transportation from retirements, and looking for volunteers who are interested in transportation to serve on the committee.
Roger, I'll go with you.
But I.
Oh, you already got Ted?
Yes, Ted. Hey, Ted.
Ted just volunteered.
Ted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Send me an email on when and where you meet.
Soon as I figure that out, but in the meantime, can you send me an email until I get yours?
I'll get it one way or the other. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Ted, I just need to be able to communicate.
Okay. Moving ahead then to Platinum Associate News. And Kristen, we have any associate members with some new news they would like to share?
I think so. We have a new platinum member, Cadence Banks. So Reva, do you want to take over and give us some new news?
I don't know how new it is. Thank you. We do appreciate the opportunity to become a platinum member. I do have with me another team member, Melody Kelly. We are both account managers in association services at Cadence Bank. I've been in this role for about 15 years, and I have customers today that I had that very first year. So we're very proud of that. We're known for our customer service. We're also known for being a relationship bank. We don't just want your accounts. We want to know you. We want to come alongside you, help you plan, hear your plans and your future projects, see if we can be of assistance to that. Also, we're all very painfully aware of the low deposit rates at this time across the board, but it is an excellent time if you have projects and you have lending needs. So please contact us if you do. We'd love to hear about those and let you know what we can or cannot do. We'll be very honest with you. We don't just lead you down that path, but we would love to hear from you if we can help you in any way at all at Cadence Bank. Our team is dedicated wholly to co-ops, condos, and HOAs, and we have an array of products and services that meet those needs. So give us a call, give us a chance.
And we also have Surf Pro. Hopefully they'll have something new to talk about tonight.
Water, water, and water. No, I mean, it's been raining a lot more, especially with the hurricane coming through. We do a lot of preparedness to try to get ahead of it. I know this one, we kind of avoided the path, but we set up free ERPs, which digitizes all of your emergency contact information. So if you spread it out to the other contacts or condo owners, association owners, tell them to give me a call. We'll digitize all of their fire, medical, plumbing, electricity, lawn services, give it to them for free in an app that they can look at on their own phones rather than run into the office that's flooding or on fire or something to try to find it.
Great. Thank you, Brent. And did you texted me, did that get taken care of with Jamie?
Yeah, Katie took care of it. Yeah, Jamie got
it. Thank you, Jamie. I'm sure that your need got addressed.
Just my group, the only new thing I have is with me, I've got 5 members that are platinum members of Dsca. So we're happy to support. Always lots going on down here. We've got a meeting on the 29th. It's in Sarasota Yacht Club. Legislators are in session right now to come up with the new laws for 2022. So I've got a member that consults with the Florida Task Force that's doing all that kind of work, and she will be on my panel. And then the other new thing, this is dumb, but I found this wine, it's forge wine. One of my clients is forge engineering. I like to pretend they make this wine, but they don't. But I tasted it, it's really good. And so if you want to pretend they make it, that's okay. That's it.
Okay. Anything else? Any member representative comments? Ted?
Yeah, I've got two things. We have the Lawn Bowling Club is having their open house on the 27th of October for all downtown Sarasota Condominium Association members, and it'll be in the afternoon, and we'd love to have as many down there as possible. The condo challenges will be again on February 1st of next year, and Bob's group has got to try to defend their trophy that they're somewhere hanging around their condominium down there at Broadway Promenade. That's about it.
Okay.
What was the date again for your open house or your reception?
October 27th. So I'll remind you again in the October meeting when we have it as well.
Okay. I think that's about it, unless anybody has a final comment. Our next, Roger.
Ted, I'll send you this strategic plan from the Transportation Committee as soon as I get your.
Thank you. Patrick's got my contact information as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then as far as our next meeting, October 6th, and if Bob, if you'll have us back, that would be great if we could work on the, I think it was, we've got a potential issue, but we'll work on that. But tentatively, we would talk about here on October 6th. Does that make sense to everybody? Sure. Yeah. Okay. And with that, anything else before we adjourn? Thank you, everybody, and I do apologize for our hiccup at the beginning, but we got it fixed. Sorry in particular to you folks out there. Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.